Hey there Retro Games fans, this is Andy C from Piece of 8-Bit. Welcome to this week's The Bit Between. And this week we're taking a look at one of the most celebrated and controversial games ever released on the Amiga. That game, of course, is Cannon Fodder. It was released in 1993 by Sensible Software and it was published by Virgin Interactive. Cannon Fodder arrived during the really peak years of the Amiga and quickly became one of the system's defining titles. Now, at first glance, it seems like a really simple action game. You're going to command a squad of soldiers through a series of missions, taking out enemy troops, destroying vehicles and completing objectives from an overhead perspective. Underneath all of that action lies something perhaps a little different. Unlike a lot of the military games of the era, Cannon Fodder wasn't really interested in glorifying war, and in fact, actually, much of the game's design was actively highlighting the costs of conflict. Every soldier in your squad has a name, for instance, and as they survive missions, they gain rank and experience, and you become a little attached to them, actually. And when they die, well, they're gone forever. The game famously tracks every casualty, and between missions you'll see a hillside covered in gravestones representing the soldiers that you've lost. It is a surprisingly powerful mechanic, especially in a game that is released in 1993. Now, the title itself is a clue to the developer's intentions. Cannon fodder is a term used to describe soldiers who are treated as expendable resources in wartime. And Sensible Software really wanted players to think about that idea whilst still creating a fun and accessible action game. And they really do manage to do that. Critically, Cannon Fodder was a massive success. Reviewers really liked its addictive gameplay, the clever mission design, the distinctive visuals, and obviously that blend of strategy and action that was pretty unique. It was receiving review scores well into the 90s, and for many Amiga magazines it's frequently cited as one of the greatest games ever released for the platform. It was also pretty successful commercially too, selling hundreds of thousands of copies across multiple systems, and it really did help to cement Sensible Software's reputation as one of Britain's most talented development studios. Obviously, coming from the same team that created Sensible Soccer, Cannon Fodder basically demonstrated that the studio could succeed far beyond just sports games. Not that Sensible Soccer is just any sports game, of course. But the game wasn't without controversy. Before launch, Cannon Fodder's box art featured a soldier beneath a red poppy, and of course here in the UK, the poppy is very closely associated with remembrance of fallen servicemen and women, particularly through the Royal British Legion. And you'll notice actually at the beginning there is a disclaimer to say that this game is not in any way linked to the Royal British Legion or endorsed by it. And essentially some veteran groups and members of the public felt that using the poppy to market a video game was perhaps a little inappropriate and disrespectful. And the controversy became quite significant, enough so that the newspapers covered the story and Virgin Interactive eventually altered parts of the game's marketing material. Of course, ironically, many people who actually played the game and argued, many people that played the game, argued that critics had kind of missed the point really entirely. And rather than celebrating war, of course, Cannon Fodder is often interpreted as being strongly anti-war, which I think is very much the case. And it highlights the loss of life and human cost in military conflict. Controversy, as with many of these controversies, only served to increase the game's profile, and today it is still remembered as one of the earliest examples of a video game provoking a wider public discussion about the themes and the messaging. So yes, really is quite poignant, I think. And the success of the game itself led to Cannon Fodder 2 in 1994, and that expanded the formula with more missions, new environments, and even more challenges. Years later, the series would receive various remakes and reimaginings, and yeah, it's great, although many fans would still regard the original Amiga games as the definitive versions. So, more than 30 years later, Cannon Fodder remains one of the most distinctive games of its era. It combines action, strategy, a good dose of humour, which Sensible Software kind of were known for. And surprisingly thoughtful and, like I say, poignant themes into something that still feels, I think, pretty unique today as well. So today what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at it and find out if this Amiga Classic really does live up to its legendary status and reputation. Is it as clever as people remember, and can I keep my squad alive long enough to avoid filling that graveyard, of course? So let's get it loaded up and let's dive into some gameplay for 10 or 15 minutes just to give you a feel for it. I have been playing the game a little bit as well through the month but yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit about the mechanics of the game, and then I'll come back for my final thoughts and let you know whether it's something you should go and check out yourself. Let's dive straight in with some gameplay. Alright, let's get into a little bit of gameplay then with our first mission, which is called the Sensible Initiation. And yes, oh sorry, phase 1 of 1. It's a jungle out there. Oh, I'm not sure what that previous screen was, never mind. So we're just going to wait for this to get loaded. It takes a little while to get going. Now, weirdly, I am playing this on the FS-UAE emulator. Which has caused me a little bit of a headache over the last few weeks, I have to be honest with you. I'll talk more about that when we get to wrapping up the month with later on. But it sort of has a emulated floppy disk noise, and it seems to load at about the same time as well. So everything takes a while. I'm sure you can turn that off with a bit of fiddling around. But yes, let's dive straight into the first mission. Nice and simple. So here's our 2 troops down here, Jules and Jops. And we're going to left click to move them around, and it is as simple as that. And we're going to right click to shoot our weapon. There we go, and that's it. Mission 1 is complete. Nice and straightforward. So we're going to dive straight into mission number 2. Okay, so there we go. And nice and easy. We didn't lose anyone that time round. So Jules and Jops are going to get a promotion. You can see in a moment. Going to get a little extra insignia there. Is that the right word? Not sure. And these are our first 2. Probably the 2 most famous soldiers in all of the game, because they're the first 2. And yeah, let's dive straight into the second one. So at the moment we've got no gravestones, which is great. Some more recruits coming over the hill. Obviously I've got the ability to save the game as well, so that's a nice feature. Not something you could always do. Mission 2, Onward Virgin Soldiers. I think that's just a strapline, because the actual mission is called, yeah, in this particular instance, Bridge over the River Pye. I'm just waiting for that to get loading. See, I played this game quite a lot in the 90s. I really enjoy it. I think it's such a lot of fun to play, and it's so simple. It's so easy to get into, but it is... I say it's simple in terms of the control schemes and mechanisms, but it is also a particularly difficult game. Quite quickly, it gets quite hard. Okay, so we've got 27 recruits remaining. So basically what that means is I've got 27 recruits. Should I fail this mission, I've got 27 additional recruits that I can send to try and get this mission finished. If I want to. I think there's somewhere in the region of about, I think it's 300 odd recruits or something. 300, I can't remember exactly the number. It might be 360. That number feels familiar. Okay, so there's a little bit more I've got to do in this one. So we're in a jungle here, obviously, as you can see, and then later on we will be in sort of a tundra after this one. I think it's after this one, it might be after the next one. So far so good. Nice. So I'm going to let them come over the water. And you can see here with the water, certain obstacles, they can't fire in the water, so they're quite vulnerable. They're obviously very slow as well. So if we need to go into the water to cross any river or anything else like that, we need to make sure that we are strategic about when we do it. go a bit around here. I got stuck on a bit of scenery there. No, it's not that way. Where did we go? What have I missed? Let's keep going over here a bit. Have a look around. Lots to explore. I think the nice thing about this, you can definitely see that sort of sensible software stamp on this game. You know, the little characters aren't massively dissimilar to what you'd see as the little players in sensible soccer. But yeah, it sort of has a kind of style to it that I think doesn't really age too badly. I think it's quite obvious what's going on here. Like I said, the control scheme is nice and simple as well. And this is another great example, of course, as well as a game that works remarkably well with a mouse. We did see ports of this game on various different platforms. It did appear on consoles as well. Yeah, it just doesn't map as well. Alright, okay, that's that phase. So there is another phase in the jungle before we go to the next one. So we'll probably do the next one. I'll show you the last one. And then we'll probably do a wrap up. So I've had a few little missions as we play through. But yeah, you can see graphically it sort of stands up really well. It doesn't, you know, I think there's this sort of obsession with having games that look amazing. So you know, we've got to have these fabulous graphics. But really, it's all about the gameplay. And this game has gameplay in spades. It is just so much fun, so good to play. Right. Oh, I think someone's just come through the woods. I think... No, you can't. I didn't think you could. He's hiding somewhere. I just saw him go into the trees, but I didn't think you could go into the trees. I certainly don't seem to be able to go into the trees. Right, let's see if we can try and encourage this soldier over the water. Yeah, they can't fire when they're in the water, as I mentioned before. So at some point, I think we're going to have to cross, but we just need to be slightly careful about when we do that. Obviously, because if we do that, like here, and we're in the water, then we are vulnerable. Let's see if I can just sneak around here. And this bit of headland. I don't think there's any... Oh, there is somebody down there. I thought there was. I thought I saw somebody down there hiding out. There we go. Done. I hate to say it, but I think that, yeah, that is rather morbidly, that is a body that's floating down the water there on the right hand side, which is yeah, let's not talk about that. But I mean, this sort of game would have been very, very controversial. You know, this is in the days, obviously, you know, long before Grand Theft Auto and those kind of things. So we had, well, I say long before Grand Theft Auto. It wasn't long before Grand Theft Auto. Of the overhead Grand Theft Autos, of course, which were in themselves quite controversial. We had games like Carmageddon as well, that was also incredibly controversial, so much so that certainly I think here in the UK they had to change the pedestrians that you ran over in your car to being zombies, and they had to change the colour of the blood and all sorts of things like that because people were very sensitive to it. And people genuinely believed back then that video games would kind of rot all of our brains and corrupt all of our minds. I mean, we were all kids back then. They thought they were, you know, terrible. And this sort of game would have been a good example where it would have been controversial and people would have said it was glorifying war, as I mentioned before. So yes, it was controversial. So this, you know, seeing little bodies floating down the water and seeing blood and everything else on the screen in an interactive fashion really was considered not a great thing. You know, I remember playing Moonstone on the Amiga, and again, oh, I lost a soldier. Who was that? Who went? Oh, it was Jules. Oh no. Alright, let me try and see if I can get this. There we go. That's what. Oh, that is outrageous. Did you see that? I've lost another one. I've lost Chops and Jules. Oh no. Yeah, basically he got hit by some debris from this building that I just blew up, which is a real bummer when that happens. I think those might have been the last two. There we go. He's jumping for joy, which is somewhat sad. But we are going to see what happens when you lose some of your soldiers. Obviously, you know, there are plenty in the game. You can play this game for a long time before you run out of recruits, but it is very, very sad. Here we go. Mission number 2. Jules and Jops, our most senior and most decorated soldiers, lost in battle. And it does become, it is ridiculous, but it does become quite poignant as you get through the game and your soldiers rank up and you get used to them being in your squads. You do get a little bit sad because some of them do, you know, some of them do get quite promoted. Stu's had 2 promotions. I assume that's because he was the only soldier left standing. So we're going to send some new ones in now. So I'll just show you the next mission. So I'll just show you some of the variety, and then we'll move on to wrapping up. And we've got some more recruits there. And again, this is sort of this kind of message, and I do think that Sensible Software have managed to strike quite a balance between making a message, making a statement about you know, the futility of war and all of those kind of things, and still making a game that's lots and lots of fun to play and a good laugh. They seem to have, you know, it's sort of that kind of, I don't know what sort of comedy it is. It's something that, like, you know, things like South Park are very good at doing, that kind of social commentary whilst making something very funny but having a really kind of deep message, potentially a political message or some kind of message underneath, which really cuts at the topic. And I think this game definitely achieves that. You know, when you see them all coming over the hill, you know, there's just more people, and you know that they're going to go into this mission and, you know, potentially just be killed frivolously on the battlefield, and that there's just a whole bunch more that come over the hill. So it's, you know, and as you do play through the game, that hill will become very full of little gravestones. It's quite sad, really, but I don't know, you still want to play because it's still a fun game. I'm not selling it well, but it is good. Right, okay, let's just have a quick look at this last mission. So here you can see a little tundra mission, and I can just sort of have a wander down here. And it does start to get quite a bit more difficult now as you get through those first few missions. Once you do those first few, it does start to get a little bit trickier. So we're going to leave our intrepid soldiers now fighting the enemy in the tundra, and we are going to wrap up. So I will I'll carry on playing this in the background, but let's go to grab my final thoughts, I should say. Put my untwist my tongue, and yeah, go and grab my final thoughts. I'll let you know my verdict of this this fabulous little 1993 game from Sensible Software. Well, there you go. That is a Cannon Fodder from Sensible Software 1993. What do I think of it? Well, I absolutely adore this game. I love it. I think it's great. And, you know, obviously it's difficult to talk about a game that carries a message such as this, and then talk about it being fun in the same paragraph. It is a little bit weird, but it is, you know, like I said, it is that sort of humour that kind of carries a bit of social commentary, and you know, it is a really fun game to play nevertheless. But it is, you know, you do become attached to the characters, and whilst there are these little sprites, you know, these little colourful characters on the screen here, you know, you do become a little bit attached to the characters, and yeah, you know, especially as they level up and they stay in your squads, you know, you sort of realise the kind of message that they're trying to get across. But underneath all of that, it is a really good little strategy game. It's a really good action game. It's fantastic, and the Amiga version is great because it's, you know, it's the original. It's the one that has the mouse as well. So when it was on consoles, obviously you don't have the mouse, which makes it that little bit trickier to play. It is a very natural feeling game. It's very easy to play. You know, you use left mouse to move around, left mouse button to move around, right mouse button to fire. That's it. It's very, very simple. There is very little to it, and it's really, really good. And there's lots of environments to play in. You know, it's got that wonderful soundtrack that we've become used to with a lot of Amiga games from that era. So yes, for me, it is a 4.5 parrots out of 5. I think this game is fantastic. I think it's still very, very playable. And like Sensible Soccer, it is just a classic that refuses to age and just remains fun in 2026 and will do for years to come. So it is loads of fun, and you should definitely go and check it out. It is brilliant. So that is Sensible Software's Cannon Fodder. Try and get it right then. Sensible Software's Cannon Fodder from 1993 on the Amiga. Absolutely brilliant. So there you go. That is this week's The Bit Between. We will have one more Bit Between coming up next week. So stay tuned for that as well. Thanks so much for all of the engagement on the Amiga topics that we've been talking about throughout the month with. So we've only got just over a week left, and then it will be the end of the month with. So I'll be coming back and wrapping up what it's been like to live with the Amiga for these last 4 weeks, which has been a fantastic experience. Obviously, I've been doing a few sort of little documentary style pieces about the Amiga. So we talked about why it's been such a huge success in Europe and the UK as opposed to in the US. We've talked a little bit about how it compares to the 16-bit consoles of the same era. I did also talk about some of the essential games that you should check out, so go check all of those videos out. This week we will be doing another sort of documentary style opinion piece, and I'll be asking, was it genuinely ahead of its time? So we'll be looking at a few sort of categories and areas. Everybody talks about the Amiga as being ahead of its time in the mid-1980s, but was that statement really true? So we're going to explore that a little bit as well. So do stay tuned on Friday for that as well. So there we go. Those are all the things that have either happened or are coming up. And of course, next week we'll also be announcing what we're going to be doing in the next month with it. And it is a console. I mentioned this before, I think. Did I? No, I don't think I've mentioned it before, but it is a console, and it's I think a somewhat unloved console. So I'm quite excited about this one, and you can maybe have a hazard a guess as to what that might be. So that is also coming up as well. I have spoken enough, so if you enjoy these videos, please do hit that like and subscribe button. It's been amazing this last month. People have been so engaged with the channel, which has been fantastic. So there's a lot of love and thought and opinion around the Amiga, and everyone's been great at sharing that. It's been some lovely comments, and people are spending a fantastic amount of time writing to me or writing in the comments and talking about their memories and experiences and those kind of things at the time, which has been absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for that, and so many people have subscribed as well, and I've had so many viewers on the topic compared to my channel average, at least anyway, so that's been amazing too. So yes, please do hit that like and subscribe button anyway if you enjoy these videos. Just leaves me to say thanks all for watching. Please do all take care of yourselves, and I will see you on Friday. Yeah, that's it. Bye for now.